Every day, something dramatic happens in the Caribbean that affects our lives. We'll give you the details. We'll give you the facts on Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick. Here's Eddie Frederick.
So glad you can join us. Belize's government minister Pablo Marin shoots and kills a suspected burglar. This story takes the lead in our 933rd edition of Caribbean Perspective for Wednesday, 2nd September 2020. Details after this important message.
The hurricane season is now upon us, so we as Caribbean people need to remember to think safety and be prepared. Avoid venturing outside during a storm or hurricane, especially if there are strong winds. Rooftops and other debris are often blown about and can cause great damage.
Welcome back. Belize's Health Minister Pablo Marin was detained and then released from police custody after he was reported to have shot and killed a suspected burglar over the weekend, following a home invasion at his Carisol home. More in this report from 7 News Belize.
Marin was awakened by noise coming from the lower flat of his house in the Rainbow Town area, and that is when he says he came face to face with a burglar. Based on the expended shells recovered from the scene, Minister Marin fired 3 shots. At least one caught Arkell Matura, who was later discovered dead among banana trees in an adjacent lot to the minister's property.
Police received a call about an intruder attempting to enter the residence of Mr. Pablo Marin. Upon arrival at that location, police there observed the body of a male person who was later identified as Arkell Matura on the outside near a patch of bananas. Apparently, police observed that he had a gunshot injury to his body.
When he got on the first floor, he observed that the burglar bar was removed from one of the windows and some louvers were missing. He went outside around the building, and when he came back inside on the veranda, he was accosted by a lone individual who was brandishing a knife. Mr. Marin said that he ordered the person to put down the knife, and the person charged at him. He fired 1 shot to warn the person, and when he did that, the person turned around and stooped down as if he was going to pick up or do something, and he subsequently fired 2 more shots. And after having done so, the person got up and jumped over the fence.
According to residents in the area, the echoes of the blast rang out just after 10 o'clock on Thursday night, and within minutes, police arrived at the scene and cordoned off the area. The scene was processed, and the body of Matura was discovered later.
Right after the last gunshot, we saw police respond quickly, and from there, we saw Honorable Pablo Marin came from the side of his house with a gun, so we noticed it was there that the commotion happened and things. So we saw the police running, thought the thief or whoever was there escaped.
Officer commanding the Crime Investigations Branch for the Eastern Division, Superintendent Alejandro Kawa, was deployed to Carisol to assist with the investigation. He says that the information so far suggests that Marin fired shots at Matura, who charged at him with a knife.
He heard some noise coming down from the lower flat. Upon him making checks at the lower flat, he observed a male person that was on the veranda, along with some items which are suspected to have been stolen from inside of the lower flat of the building. As a result, the person approached Mr. Marin with a knife on his son, and in return, Mr. Marin fired shots with his licensed firearm, unfortunately, causing a fatal injury to Mr. Matura.
Matura's sister, Julie, says that while her brother was known to abuse drugs, she does not know him to be a criminal. Police, however, say that he is no stranger to the law.
Prime Minister Dean Barrow, meantime, stands in solidarity with his cabinet colleague and health minister.
The Minister of Health was scheduled to be with us this afternoon. By now, all Belize knows of the incident that took place last night, in which, following a home invasion that he suffered. There was a shooting. He, in fact, shot the person that broke into his home, and that person died. Of course, the police are conducting an investigation, after which, as I understand it, their report will be submitted to the Director of Public Prosecutions for her determination. All I will do this afternoon is to express my utter and complete solidarity with my colleague, Mr. Honorable Pablo Marin, and I will leave it at that.
In other news, Trinidad and Tobago celebrated 58 years of independence on Monday. Renessa Cutting of TV6 News reports.
There's one reality that is as inescapable as it gets, and that is that we are all in this together.
A call for unity and cooperation from the Prime Minister as TNT celebrates its 58th year as an independent nation.
This time, 2020, is one such challenging period. This is not a time to lose faith, to kindle racial hatred, to spread fake news, to undermine institutions, and selfishly stoke ethnic, religious, social, or geographical division. Regardless of who is doing it, just stop.
An admonition also went out to one specific sector of the population.
Young people, take responsibility for your clips, crews, and lines, and become protectors for and of each other. This is it. This is not a drill. It's not a joke.
Reflecting on our progress these past 58 years, Dr. Rowley said, "We have done reasonably well," but he noted there is still much more to be done, particularly in the areas of digitization and diversification.
I want to assure every citizen now, this government is already in the fields and has the determination, grit, and imagination that will lay the foundation on which we will re-emerge with a society, a government, and a public service that would be transformational and progressive in every sense.
His assurance comes ahead of the budget presentation, for which a date is yet to be announced. But the Prime Minister indicated that boosting our oil production and the sale of the refinery are engaging government's attention.
The COVID-19 pandemic is forcing the world to change the way things are done. As TNT celebrates 58 years of independence, it's no different. Here's Alicia Boucher, who was at the Queen's Park Savannah, to get a feel of the atmosphere.
You're listening to Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick.
Over in Jamaica, PNP's General Secretary has tested positive for COVID-19. TVJ's Ocean Masters fills us in.
General Secretary of the People's National Party, Gillian Robinson, has tested positive for COVID-19. In a release this morning, Mr. Robinson said after briefly experiencing some signs of tiredness, he did 2 COVID-19 tests, following a false negative. The PNP General Secretary says since experiencing symptoms, he has avoided contact with the party's campaign leadership and stopped direct campaign activities in his St. Andrew South Eastern constituency. He's now in self-isolation. Going forward, he says he'll not take part physically in the rest of the general election campaign.
The two major political parties in Jamaica, meantime, faced off over the weekend in the second national debate for the election season. Prince Moore of TVJ News reports.
During the debate, JLP's Dr. Nigel Clark blasted the PNP's wealthy plan as he went up against Mark Golding on issues of the economy and finance.
Thursday night's second national debate for the election season saw the JLP's Dr. Nigel Clark and the PNP's Mark Golding square off on issues of the economy and finance. Funding for both the PNP and the JLP plans kick-started the debate. Under its wealthy plan, The PNP promised to give each household $3,000 credit per month towards electricity bills and $1,000 credit per month towards water bills. This would cost the government about $26.4 billion yearly. Mr. Golding said the party intends to use over $280 billion in discretionary funding from the national budget, as well as resources from cash-rich public bodies to fund the plan. This, he explained, would be done without imposing new taxes.
Some of that will be paid for through the consolidated fund. Some will be paid for through public bodies that have surpluses that are available for that. We do not intend to levy any new taxes. Jamaica is in a deep recession. We're in a crisis at this time. We cannot impose taxes on the people at this time because it would be counterproductive.
But Dr. Clark chastised the plan and dismissed the PNP's promise. He argues that the PNP could not implement a plan without imposing taxes.
It is simply not credible, it misses the mark, and it is a big bag of tricks. The resources, when you look at their proposal, easily, over 5 years, it would easily cost $100 billion just from a few items. The resources of government come from you, the people. When they were last in office, for 4 years, they levied $53 billion of taxes, and that is the only way for them to finance this. When they're finished taxing the Jamaican people to finance their $100 billion of expenditure, all of Jamaicans will be left with a little bit of money.
But the JLP in its manifesto outlined plans that would cost billions. Dr. Clark says that the party's plans would be funded through $5 billion of the new central government expenditure, which is not yet accounted for.
And that $5 billion covers the cost of operationalizing the free Wi-Fi in town centers, operationalizing our daycare center proposal, as well as the grants for that are not yet programmed, of which $500 million for communities, $2 billion out of the 3 for fisher folk. The rest have been accounted for already.
Prince Moore, TVJ News.
I am Eddie Frederick. This has been Caribbean Perspective, a whole new approach to highlighting developments in the Caribbean. In the meantime, please continue to log on to CaribbeanPerspective.com for more daily news and more.